Hello everyone, and welcome to another video from Eagles of Empire. In this video we're gonna look at the two rule books that constitutes the Eagle of Empire skirmish rules system, and we're gonna do a flip through of Drillbook 1, which covers the basic skirmish rules and rules for infantry. Now both books are available as full color print books. Everything is in full color. You'll see that as we do the flip through, and it's printed on a really nice thick quality paper, matte finished, and really picks up the illustrations really nicely, I think. Before we go into Drillbook 1 today and have a flip through and look at what's inside, I want to say that both books are available for purchase singly or collectively as a bundle deal. So there's also an option, if you want to start collecting the Eagles of Empire miniatures, that you can get the Drillbook 1 as part of an army deal. I'm going to explain those a little bit later. But it suffices to say that whether you have a collection of miniatures and you just want to get some rules and get playing, you can do that, no problem. Or if you want to dive headlong into the Eagles of Empire system with all our miniatures as well, we have some really great bundles that will get you started with miniatures and rules. So the rules are divided in two books. First book covering basic rules and infantry. This is completely playable on its own, meaning that if you have some infantry and you just want to get started, you want to have some squads of infantry on each side and you want to have a skirmish game, this will get you started, no worries. Then you get a little more experience. Maybe you want to add some cavalry, maybe you want to have some artillery, or you want to add some of the historical heroes that our range offers. Then you want to have the extended rules version here with cavalry, artillery and heroes. So two rule books, but this one will get you completely off the ground and get you rolling some dice with your friends, no worries. Okay, let's have a closer look at Drillbook 1, which covers infantry and the basic rules. Now, Drillbook 1 is the perfect choice if you just want to get started into the period. You have maybe a few boxes of miniatures and you're looking for some easy accessible rules. They'll get you gaming in no time. So these are perfectly gameable on their own. Now, as you expand your collection, maybe you want to add some cavalry, you want to add some artillery and so on, then you get the other book. But this one will get you started and it's playable, completely playable on its own. Now, the book itself is made on pretty thick and very nice quality paper. It has a matte finish, which will repel most sticky fingers or if you happen to spill something on the gaming table. So it's a pretty durable quality, and it's an easy and small size, so you can bring it to a gaming club or your mate's place if you want to. And it's it's actually, I think, a good size for having close at hand if you need at the gaming table. I would say reading the book and learning the rules, once you've read them, you really don't have to flip through everything again. It's pretty straightforward, but there is a good quick ref sheet in the back of the rule book, which will help you maybe in the first few games until you get the feeling of it. Right, let's dive in. So we start out with a historical quote here by Bismarck, just to set the feeling and the historical framework here. On we go to contents, and again, once having read all this, it's really just a case of having the quick ref close at hand when gaming. There is a chapter here. We start with a chapter on the historical background, so you are getting a feeling of what warfare would look like in 19th century, late 19th century, some of the major tactical changes going on the battlefields, some of the things we're going to reflect in the rules and in the games you're going to be playing. So you're really getting your socks wet here with the Franco-Prussian War. Onwards we go to a introduction of the 4 factions of the rules. So you'd have Imperial France, you'd have Prussia, part of the German coalition, you have Republican France, and you have Bavaria, also part of the German coalition. So the reasons why there are 2 different versions of France is pretty obvious. The war was fought in 2 parts on French, from the French point of view. They actually, once the emperor was captured after the Battle of Sedan, France renewed the new government, the new Republican government in Paris renewed the declaration of war. So they were already at war, but formally they renewed the declaration of war against the Prussian coalition. So, and there were this pretty big differences in troop quality, morale, weaponry, etc., between Imperial France and Republican France. So I think it's really important to differentiate between those 2. Here is a little guide to some of the basic products in the range. We go on now to explaining unit cards. Unit cards are the cards attached to each particular unit that will show you that particular unit's stats in movement, weaponry, firepower, charge value, defensive value, and unit strength, plus this type of unit's particular special ability. I can show you here. It's an example of a French unit card for French line infantry. Now, it also shows you the unit's cost in command points. Like I mentioned earlier, in the Eagles of Empire skirmish rule, the real depth and enjoyment, if you want, of the rules is the currency system that runs inside the game. And I'll explain that a little more as we go along, but you use command points to buy reinforcements and other things. But reinforcements and buying a squad of French line infantry would cost you 3 command points. So that's one of the basics, right? Then you have doctrine cards here, which basically is the infantry or army doctrine of your particular faction. Now, these would reflect the military schools of the day. So for the French, they would rely a lot on the fire range of the chassepot or French élan. For the Prussians, they would rely on their powerful Krupp artillery or having Junker officers trained to really be proactive and aggressive on the battlefield. So the doctrines give an extra historical element to the game, and it's also a way to boost your troops' performance. And activating doctrines also cost command points. So you start to see how important it is to actually earn command points, and you do that by holding tactical objectives on the table. Now, next chapter here is a little bit on officers, how they work in the game. Officers are the prerequisite for using doctrine cards, of course. Without officers, who's there to implement the tactical doctrines of your faction? There's something on basing here, so how to base your miniature collection so that it will make sense in the way that we use casualties and unit strength in the game. Here's a little bit about how to build units, squad size, section, and also here a section with attached officer. And here's a cohesion map just to get you really into how to move your units about on the table, and a guide how to do that. Here is a guide to how to set the table. Again, pretty straightforward. Everything is shown in pictures. How to place tactical objectives so you create an evenly balanced game. Really important. And these are the tactical objectives in a standard game. The purple here is the deployment zone of each player. So these tactical areas would be the ones that you want to grab and will then generate income for you. The income that you get during the game by holding the tactical objectives can then be used to either buy reinforcements, boost your troops' abilities by using your faction's doctrine, or to buy victory points. So the real, let's say, balance of the game, the real intricate balance of the game is that you have to always evaluate on how much push you want to do on the tactical objectives with reinforcements, either to consolidate what you hold or to push away your opponent, while also keeping up the match within the match on buying victory points. I hope that explains just a little bit about the full dimensions of the game actually. So moving on, there is a chapter here on terrain and how the units interact with terrain. Again, easily explained in illustrations. There's also here about buildings. More terrain here is explained, visibility and range and so on. Yeah, command points is explained here, how the currency works within the system, the gaming system, and also ammunition, which is one extra element within the currency. There is a set of doctrine within each doctrine cards that requires that you not only have command points but also have an excess of ammunition. For instance, a good example could be a support artillery strike. So there's also some really nice historical pictures here. This is the attack made by von Halden, Colonel von Halden, who's actually a miniature available in the range also as a German Prussian hero during the Battle of Saint-Privat. Here we go. Some miniatures painted from different fractions: Bavarians, Prussians, French, Republican French, just to get you inspired and get your project going. The book also contains a ready-to-play historical scenario, which is a battle within the Battle of Spichern over the hill of Roterberg, where you have the French and the Prussians pushing into a hilly area here, where the French will be defending, the Prussians will be pushing. You have your tactical objectives here generating 4 command points per round, and you have the key in the middle here generating 4 command points and 1 ammo per round. So this will explain everything. There's also a briefing from headquarters to each of the players, and there's a clear statement here of which units can be used and which doctrines can be used. Now, this scenario is included in the book and fits the army deal that's on the web shop, where you get the book, you get 4 squads of French and 4 squads of Prussian infantry, and you get the 2 factions doctrine cards also. So this is actually a plug-and-play solution with the army deal. There is an overview here of the game turn sequence. Collecting resources, purchasing reinforcements and victory points, movement, charging into hand-to-hand, shooting, resolving hand-to-hand, and end phase. Clearly explained everything here, and in the following pages each of the steps is explained even more in detail, so you are really informed about how all those different parts work in the game. Again, it's dressed up nicely with historical images from the battles, those great battles during the summer of 1870. Right, here's a chapter on hand-to-hand fighting, end phase, victory conditions. And here's what I talked about, the quick ref sheet. Now this is a really straightforward, here's the game turn sequence, here's the info on units, officers, how to hit to save, cover modifiers, movement, hand-to-hand, unit special abilities, explaining all the icons. Now if you buy a unit card, say for instance a French line infantry unit card. You would have some of the special abilities here listed on that unit card, which means that this unit that you have that ability. So not only do you have the basic stats of that unit, but you also have here a guide to the special abilities that your unit can perform. So this really is just adding more historical depth to a game which is set in a very, let's say, pivotal period in European history, and we want to reflect that in the rules. We want to make it we want to make that history come alive on the gaming table. So these special abilities are also really fun and create a lot of diversity, and you know, maybe remove the feeling of just rolling dice against dice, more to a, let's say, tactical feeling where your doctrines and your unit special ability and also the ongoing game within the game of the resources will give you a really nice and fun game. So in the end here we have some tips for further reading. Guide for museums. Now I visited all of these, so I can vouch for these. Great museums. Actually, this is the one that's actually on the battlefield next to Mars La Tour and the Gravelotte Saint-Prévin. This is the Army Museum in Paris, and the Historical Museum in Berlin. Both of these are also amazing museums. Really, really wonderful work keeping history alive and interesting for visitors today. And just a little thank you note here to some of the people who have been helping me in developing the rules and the concept to what it is today. So that concludes the flip through of this infantry drill book, rulebook 1 of the Eagles of Empire skirmish rules. I hope you've enjoyed it, and let me just round off by saying that the book is available. You can purchase it singly, you can purchase it as a set, a bundle deal, where you get both the rule book for infantry, cavalry, artillery heroes here, and you get also within the bundle you get the doctrine cards that I mentioned a few times, and you get a limited edition French officer miniature. This bundle is available, and it's also a really good option if you already have a collection from another maker. There's some other good manufacturers out there. There's wonderful miniatures for the Franco-Prussian War. So if you just want the rules, that's completely fine. There are also unit cards available on the web shop, so you can do a plug and play with an existing collection. If you are just getting into the period, you think these rules look fun, there's a wonderful army deal that contains 4 squads of French infantry, 4 squads of Prussian infantry, the rule book, which will get you started, and this set of doctrine cards and the limited edition French officer miniature. So whichever option you have and whichever setup you have a solution here for you that will work for you and get you gaming the Franco-Prussian War. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope you'll enjoy painting and gaming some miniatures out there, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.